Welcome to 10 Years Too Late, the podcast where we pick a random subject and talk about it, see how a decade makes a difference. I'm Joel. I am 37. No, I'm 38. I just did this the other day with somebody asking me my age. I was like, I'm 38. No, wait, I'm 37. No, wait, I'm 38. They were like, you really don't...
See, you're getting to that age where you just can't remember anymore. They're all blurring together.
Gosh.
I know it well. I'm Brett, and I'm 51. I almost did it, too.
Nice. Let's try that again.
You want to do that again?
Yeah.
Welcome to 10 Years Too Late, the podcast where we pick a random subject and see how a decade makes a difference. I'm Joel, and I'm 37. 38.
I'm Brett, right. And I'm 51.
I'm Chase, and I'm 28.
I have a real problem remembering my age. I don't really know what that's about. But anyway, we're all 10 years apart.
Age.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. Man, I tell you. Well, we're going to talk today about authenticity. It's a big word.
I'm glad you didn't lie about your age.
Yeah.
We're talking about
this. You know what's crazy is my story. I might as well lead off with that story. You really didn't plan that segue, but that is literally my story about being authentic, is lying about my age. It's so weird.
Is it because people think you look a lot older than you are?
No. Yes, that too, because I'm bald. But when I started school young, so I was always the youngest person in my grade. So when I went into high school, I was 13. And I was 13 for the first, 6 months of high school before I turned 14. So it really kind of strange. So when I was a sophomore, I was still 14, and a girl liked me. And so we started dating, and I lied to her, and I said that instead of being 15 going on, instead of being 14 going on 15, I was 15 going on 16, which seems like no big deal, but when you're in high school, that's like a really big deal.
Yeah.
1 year. So I'm like this 14-year-old. She's thinking I'm 15, almost 16. We dated for 6 months, and she never found it out. I kept it like a complete secret. My parents were in on it. I don't know how I convinced them to do that. And I remember I would lie to her about my driver's license, because that's the big thing when you turn 16, obviously, is getting your driver's license. So it was, okay, this is coming up, I'm going to do my driving test, all that kind of stuff. And she just bought the whole thing. And then when I actually turned 15, when I was supposed to be 16, she's like, how come you're not going and getting your driver's license? But eventually it got out that I had lied about my age for the whole 6 months we were together. And she was pretty pissed. And we broke up.
Did you?
Yeah.
We broke up.
She did. I mean, I had really kind of lied and really built the lie up because I was just super insecure about being so young.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy. And
I guess that would have been problematic when you got 18 and 19.
Yeah.
You know, she was 18 and you were 17.
Right.
Or 19 and you were
19 and I was 18. But
that wouldn't be
but now it's like, as you get older, 1 year difference.
Statutory rape.
That was the whole plan. Gosh. But that was me really, when we talk about authenticity, that was an inauthentic moment I remember when I was thinking about when I was younger. That was a big one for me. And keeping that lie up. And why was I keeping that up? I
mean, that takes some work.
A lot of work.
6 months, you said? Yeah.
6 months. Friends were in on it.
See, I forget my lies. That's the thing. I'll lie a lot, but I just forget, so I get caught really fast. So.
Want to hear mine?
Yeah.
I just thought of this when you were telling your story. So I wasn't listening. No, I did lie for a whole school year. In second grade, I convinced a bunch of kids that they were either Martian or that they were androids.
Wait, what grade was this?
Second grade.
Oh, man. Wow. That's pretty impressive.
Now, is it a lie when you've kind of convinced yourself?
No, because then
inauthentic.
Well, then you were being authentic to yourself because you really thought that.
I think I did. I don't remember now, but
oh, gosh.
Is that like me saying I
was very convincing.
I was pretty convinced that I was 15, even though I was 14. Does that count? You lied to me. That's nuts.
You knew you were lying.
No, I did.
I really don't know if I did.
I'm trying to think of one. I remember breaking my mom had this lamp on the nightstand, or not nightstand, coffee table. And
I know this story.
And my dad had spray painted it with that textured spray paint.
Okay.
And so, it looked cool. It was all textured, looked like sand, kind of like, on the outside of this lamp. And me and my brothers were wrestling, and we knocked it off of the table, and just the back part of it cracked. It was like a clay kind of thing, and so it like cracked off, and we're like, oh no. So I was like, no, I've seen this done. I know how to fix this. So I was like, we need some wet toilet paper.
Oh no.
So we put it on, and then we put wet toilet paper on it, and we waited for it to dry, and then we spray painted it again with the same stuff that my dad had. My parents didn't find out until like a year or so later when we went to like move. Like, she picked up the lamp and the back just like fell off, and it was like crusty like toilet paper on the inside. We're like, no, you can't yell at us.
Why did you use fresh toilet paper?
Yeah.
Why'd you use crusty?
Well, stickier. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Had like this strange odor to it.
No, but I remember I think that was the lie that lasted the longest, and then it lasted so long that we didn't even get in trouble for it, because like it was like that happened like a year ago.
Right.
So,
at some point, when does it? Yeah, it's true.
But the good thing is I forgot about it, so like I wasn't holding in this.
So you had no guilt.
I had no guilt because I forgot about it.
Yeah, your
that's
memory
bad.
really
that's,
is.
That's bad. That's really bad.
It's like guilt relief. But that's not the only way to be inauthentic.
No, right. So that's why I was
just a lie, a direct lie.
Right. And that's the thing. What's the difference between being authentic and or not being authentic and lying? So what is authenticity to you guys? What does that mean when I say I'm being authentic?
Being real, honest.
Yeah.
First off, being in touch with who you are, and then being that person. So a lot of people are inauthentic, I think, because they don't really know themselves.
Yeah, I can relate to that, especially younger, and we may have talked about this a little bit before, I think, in that I followed a lot of what other people wanted me to do. And that for me, that wasn't authentic. There was this inauthenticity about, I'm trying to be this person in one place and this person in another place and this person in another place so that I can please the people around me, instead of being authentic to who I really am.
Me too.
And I can relate to that being, and it doesn't, and sometimes it can turn into a big lie, I think, when you're trying to kind of really be two different people.
Mm-hmm.
But authenticity, I was actually looking at the some of the definition on this. Not false or copied, genuine, real is what you said.
Mm-hmm.
But this is kind of what you were saying, Brett, representing one's true nature or beliefs, true to oneself or to the person identified. And so when I was reading that, I was thinking about true to oneself. Like, everyone's like, oh, be true to yourself, be who you really are. It's like an Instagram meme or something. You see somebody out in like a field.
Ironically.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I'm wondering, like, what does that look like to be true to yourself?
I don't know. I relate to what you were saying earlier. Like, I feel like throughout, I guess I have less time asking myself this question, but I feel in my 20s and even my teenage years and going into my 20s, I felt like I was trying to discover who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I followed after people. I was a people pleaser, so I was whoever they wanted me to be. Mm-hmm. And I'm just now like, no, like, what are your passions? What are your desires? Like, what is it that makes up you? And I'm trying to piece all that together. But was I unauthentic even in like me being lost? I don't know, not lost, but like,
yeah, like trying to find your way. Yeah.
I guess because I could relate to that. I mean, I knew who I was, and I knew I was like, well, I don't feel like me, but I don't really know who I am. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I guess I was authentic about that.
And who we are is shaped by our interactions with people and by things that occur in our lives. So Yeah. What is?
How, and that's what I thought about. How much can you really be true to yourself? Because isn't yourself really defined by the tribe that you belong to some extent? I mean, obviously you have your own thoughts and your own, abilities, talents, whatever that makes you different from somebody else. But to some extent, even if you're kind of a more unique person that doesn't really care what anybody thinks, aren't you defined by the people that you're around to some extent?
Yeah.
And that's, you follow me with that?
Yeah, that's what I just said. Thanks for listening.
But it sounded better coming out of my mouth.
Must have.
Ouch.
Well, at least you're being authentic.
Yeah, I'm being authentic. Well, part of that, what brought me to this particular subject, because we're throwing around, what are we going to talk about this time? For me, is just even this podcast. As I share things that I believe, over the past 5 to even really almost 8-10 years, my beliefs have radically changed, and not even just religious beliefs, but kind of my whole view of the world paradigm. And I think some of that's just natural with going through, your 30s and kind of moving into your 40s, like really any transitions. But I've seen a pretty drastic shift in that, especially my belief systems in terms of religious beliefs. And what is it when you start to begin to share that with people? It can feel unsafe. It can
it's a
feel
very
like
vulnerable thing to do.
Yeah. What are the consequences for that? And for me, there's this pushback as I'm being honestly trying to be authentic right here on a podcast. Like there's a pushback to feeling like how much is too much to share? What are the consequences for sharing certain things? How far can you go before authenticity actually comes back to haunt you? And so I was thinking, are there times even in my own life where I've been too authentic? Because everyone's got a limit.
Yeah.
Of authenticity.
So authenticity doesn't necessarily equate to, this is just my thought, it doesn't necessarily equate to what I publicly share or even what I share with an individual. So specific events in my past or specific beliefs that I don't think are wise to share publicly. There's nothing inauthentic about that, really. Mm-hmm. As long as as long as you're not then espousing beliefs that you don't actually have
to please other people. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. So withholding something, knowing that it would cause
the word I was thinking.
Withholding.
I was trying to think of.
Yeah. Withholding something like knowing that it wouldn't do any good to the person you're telling, or to even say it out loud, knowing that.
Or that it might do harm to you.
Yeah, it's not really.
Share it.
I don't really want to say that. Like, that's, you're being authentic, by saying, well, I don't really want to talk about that. Mm-hmm. But I think it's talking about it and offending the person when you didn't want to, where maybe that's the line.
And doesn't there come a time, though, at least I hit these parts where it's like I walk this line between I want to be, I don't want to cause rifts where they don't need to be, and not everybody needs to know everything. I get that. But at some point when you want to come back to being true to yourself, like it's hard to do that. It's hard to do that, especially in specific relationships, specific contexts, that sort of thing, without having consequences for that, I think.
I'm trying to think of some areas in life where you might find, well, maybe you guys have experienced this already, but like maybe an area in your life where you remember a point where you were finding yourself not being as authentic, and you've worked through that in a certain area of life, and how was the outcome of that? Like I would say, like say marriage, and I've been in relationships, where I'm like, I feel like I have to lie, because I don't, I don't want to upset or whatever. it's kind of like you have to pick your battle there, because it always comes back up to like haunt you, and it feels much more freeing to be authentic. But what's an area in your life like that?
Yeah.
Have you worked through any area in your life where you've realized, I need to be authentic?
For sure. A couple episodes back, we talked about defining moments. For me, one of those things that was being authentic is, and kind of, I think, broke me a lot of ways, is going through, I think I mentioned going through a divorce in front of a church. Even leaving church leadership was a big deal for me. Like, there was a time when I was just like, I just can't do this anymore. I can't. There's too many politics involved in it. There's too much people preaching things that they don't really live or believe. And even for myself, it was, I have doubts, I have questions, I have a bazillion questions. Not all this stuff that I was taught ever really makes sense the way that it used to. And so authenticity for me looked like I had to step away. Just had to do that. And I know we talked about that a little bit before, but that's definitely one area where that rang true.
Yeah. And I'm on the other side of that. I know a lot of people like in the church realm that work in other churches. In talking with them, I know that their character, like coming out through their humor and the way that they talk to me, just like as at lunch or wherever, but then I see them in their environment, their church environment, and they're a completely different person,
right?
And with completely different belief mindsets. And so now I'm thinking, okay, the advice or the wisdom or whatever that they're giving me, what's real, how much weight does it have?
So you can really see the value in Jesus teaching that we shouldn't judge one another. He doesn't really leave any room for that. Paul does in terms of accountability, but Jesus, in what we have of his teachings, he doesn't leave any room for judging one another. And the reason that it's so valuable is because it provides an environment where we can be ourselves. So the Christian church, talking about people being disingenuous, when they're together on Sunday, versus when you see them during the week or where they're more comfortable with being vulnerable. That has really done a lot of damage to the what's the word I'm thinking of? To the image of the church. Mm-hmm. One of the top 5 reasons for people either not entertaining the idea of Christianity or leaving the church is one of the top 5 reasons is because they feel like people are inauthentic.
Well, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Because that was a very fine line that I think you guys are walking. Like, Brett, you said, I don't think it's inauthentic to not share something or to, like, not share your beliefs. Mm-hmm. And if it's solely for the purpose of saving face, I think that's inauthentic.
It is. You're right.
But
so it is a fine line.
If it's going to do no good for anyone, then sure. Mm-hmm. But you're walking a fine line when you're like, I want to save face, or, hey, this is just going to hurt you, so I'm not going to share it. Yeah. I think that has perpetuated bad beliefs. That has allowed people to not grow. Some people need to be hurt. I mean, we don't want to hurt people, but some people are just not developed enough that they will be hurt regardless from something. And if helping them by saying something or admitting something, then that might be good. I'm just saying it's a fine line to walk. It's not as simple as, well, I mean, I don't want to hurt someone, or I don't want to share or upset them or ruin my image to them. Then I think it's a fine line.
Yeah. Our producer, Chris, by the way.
Yeah, there's no camera right now. So.
No, there's not. No. Okay, gotcha. I think that, and there comes a point where I think you do have to be, it is a great point, because I think you also do have to be just true to yourself, to come back to that. Whether it's going to hurt somebody's feelings or it's not, at some point you have to just say, I have to do this. For me, I have to do this. For me, I have to be authentic. And that has to be a defining moment. Really, it kind of becomes this place where you just can't hold it in anymore. You can't really pretend to be something that you're not, even if it is going to make waves.
But I think it's also for them. I think a lot of harm has been done to others because people aren't.
Because people aren't.
I agree.
Yeah. But that's you talk about the church, but it's not that much different in society at large.
No.
You look at social media, you look at the
work
way that
environment.
environment. We present ourselves in a certain way, and to a certain extent, we're all going to do that. Even right now on this podcast, I was talking to Ryan about this, and he was saying, everybody's comfortable with a certain line. He's like, you're not going to go on a podcast naked. He's like, at some point, you're only going to go so far with authenticity.
I don't know.
We would get a lot of views.
Get kicked off
Unless
of
I got
YouTube.
naked.
Yeah.
We'd only get a lot of views if it was just really Chase that was naked.
No. I'm actually not wearing pants under this table. Actually, right now, hold on.
In view of authenticity,
Thumbs down.
I wanted to really bring it home.
Yeah.
But I mean, social media is a perfect example of that. To some extent, when we put ourselves on social media, we all put out what we want to put out to the world. And I think about that a lot, specifically with Instagram and Facebook, is I put pretty much the highlights. And part of the reason I do that is because I want to remember them myself. Mm-hmm. But to be honest and to be authentic is like, I want the world to see that part of me. Am I going to put like live Instagram feeds of me fighting with my kids or my wife? I mean, that would be,
yeah.
Who does that?
But I think that's the thing. Like, you wouldn't just go up to some random stranger or even somebody at work, majority of the time, and be like, yeah, I just cussed out my wife. And it's like, socially, the communication, it's like, that person probably didn't need to hear that.
Right,
I mean, maybe your counselor, but, but it's not your average everyday person needs to know that detail.
But it perpetuates, I agree with you, but doesn't it perpetuate this idea that everyone's got their shit together? And if even though we all know that they don't.
But if you're struggling, like, so if you go into your work environment and you can't leave your house stuff at home and it's affecting you, like you're tearing up, you just can't work.
Yeah.
At that moment, I think it's authentic to say, I'm different right now because of this. But on the other hand, it's like there's some fights that I've had that I can leave at home just because it's not affecting who I am, my everyday person.
But I think Joel is saying, by this not bringing up our faults is allowing this idea that everyone has their stuff together. Mm-hmm. Like, we're starting coffee and we look at other people like, how do they have all that? Like, how do they do all this and they're okay? Like, without,
and that's what I'm saying. Unless somebody asked, like, if they asked Joel, like, oh, hey, how's you and your wife?
We're great. I'm going to say we're great.
Yeah, and if you said we're great, well, maybe you're being not authentic. But if that person never asked, like, why do you have to tell them?
Yeah.
Like, it's not bad to not tell them that you had a fight.
That's true.
It's not bad, no. But Joel's question is, does it continue this idea in culture that everyone has their stuff together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because that's one of the things they've done quite a few studies about anxiety level among teens, and specifically on social media. Preteens.
There was a good Joe Rogan podcast about that.
Right. And so you hear about that all the time, and it's because, well, they see this image, they see that image, and everyone's got it together. But and I know I'm shifting a little bit here, but what's the opposite of that? Do you, when people are vulnerable and people share their struggles, it makes everybody feel better. But it takes some damn bravery to put yourself out there in a way to share your struggles with the world. And I'm not saying you should all the time, but it seems like there's some good that would come from that.
Like so many things, there's a tension there. There's a tension to be kept in order to do it right. Whatever that is, and who knows where that is, And the thing is, our society is so weird in that we're so connected with each other through the internet. Mm-hmm. It's like we don't know what the rules are anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've had complete opposite. I've had friends that every time I see them, like, it's like they're going through the worst thing they've ever gone through.
Yeah. And me too.
But that's inauthentic too, because that's just somebody... That's just a person wanting to be at the center of things and wanting, obviously I don't know the individual cases, but you can see where that happens with some people.
Yeah, they want to be like sympathy. They want the sympathy.
They want the attention. They want the sympathy. And
You drinking made me want to drink.
wow,
Thanks for sharing.
We're really
Thanks for
going
being
to.
honest.
I'm being honest.
We're trying to redraw the boundaries. What are the boundaries?
Yeah.
Made me want to drink too.
You do
gonna
it.
drink.
You can do it. Well, so one of the things that I've had a couple of people say to me, and I like this, but I don't like it.
Oh gosh.
He's worried. He's
I
scared
am.
about this. Is I've had a couple people say to me, "Wow, you really have this really good work-life balance," and they're saying that because they see that on social media. So they see me with a lot of pictures of my kids. They see me doing work stuff, whatever. But what they don't realize is that no, I don't. I fucking struggle with that. I really, really do.
Yeah.
It's not like a balance. It's more like a one extreme to the other. It's more like
Yeah.
a riding a tidal wave, you know?
There just aren't enough adjectives.
And so, like,
In case you don't know, we all know each other really well. So
yeah. Like, you have to, like, you want to present. So I like that people say, oh, sure, I have a great work-life balance. I got my shit together. But the other hand is I know that I don't, because I go home and I'm tired and I'm losing my shit on my kids, or I'm ticked at Tara and her and I are fighting, or whatever the case may be. We all have that. Or I know, like, right now in the season I'm working way too much and I don't have the right attitude about my home and family life. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I love that.
What do you say to him?
I say to them, oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
What's
Like,
appropriate? What's appropriate
what are
to
you
say to
getting?
that? Yeah.
I mean,
Actually, actually, I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah. You have a great work-life balance. What? You
Now
don't
let's
know
talk
me.
about your
You don't know
account.
Yeah.
I beat my children every night.
I don't.
I'm gonna have to put a
I
disclaimer
really
over
don't.
that.
I really don't. I don't.
He doesn't. Not that I know of.
Yeah, we're gonna ask you.
No disclaimers. You can bring my kids on the show, I promise. But what I'm saying is, you see what I'm saying? Like, we have this image that we put out, and it's not like I'm meaning to put out this perfectly balanced Joel image, but that's
But you kind of are.
I am. So is that like a
And you are kind of
subconscious?
meaning to.
Right. Yeah. You're right. What's that about? So that's why I want to talk about authenticity. That's why I'm doing it on a podcast that's public to the world. For me, it's like, I think I'm at this point in my life where I'm trying to figure out what that is myself. And I don't like to see a world. I think this is really big picture here, but in a sense, in a world
where Joel is not balanced.
but where I think we've gone to kind of an extreme with inauthenticity.
There are a lot of signs of that. There are a lot of signs that a lot of people in our culture are struggling with that. And even if maybe on a subconscious level, most of them asking questions, like where is the line? Everybody does look like they've got it all together on social media. I know that that's bullshit, but
I don't see it. But you're right. I don't see it.
And it makes me. My wife has said, I just can't go on Facebook. I see all my friends from high school. They've got all these high-powered jobs. She grew up in Long Island, and they have all these high-powered jobs, and they have great kids, and the kids are excelling in this,
and they're hot, and they're thin, and they're
exactly
Yeah. Right.
And she's just like, I just can't look at that anymore. I just can't. It sucks.
Yeah.
And
That's why I'm glad the dad bod became a hot thing.
hot commodity.
Me too.
Yeah. It's really working out for me.
I'm hoping that the granddad bod
That's next.
is following suit real soon.
Granddad's the new dad bod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an image.
It's the old dad bod.
The saggy dad bod.
That's what I didn't want to go to. Oh, no.
I just saw
But
a
no,
comedian.
Joel, I do think,
Thank you, Chris, for keeping this ball rolling.
Yeah, I do think that is something that needs to be addressed.
Right.
And if we were to be more honest, like if you were asked, like, or if someone tells you, like, wow, you have your work and family life like really figured out, what is the harm with? It's not trying to be like, oh no, you're wrong, I fuck up everywhere, but being like, yeah, it's harder than it looks. Like
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. I still struggle with it, but thank you.
I guess depending on
Or good thing you're not coming home with me tonight because
well, that's it. Maybe
I might scream at you too.
depending on how much time you have, Joel. I'm in general. If we had time, if somebody said that to me, I'd be like, well, what are you basing that off of? Ask them the question. Because I feel like, man, that might be a way to help. But sometimes you don't have the
time.
They don't even want to know.
Maybe they don't want to know.
They don't even want to know. So why not?
Maybe everybody should have two Instagrams, one for all the bad stuff and one for all the good stuff.
Could you imagine? That'd be.
Oh, that would be revolutionary.
That would be revolutionary.
That would catch on.
Well, and
what's the anti-Instagram?
Like Anti-Instagram.
Antigram?
Yeah.
Wait, that sounds like it's a thing. Antigram?
Instagram.
You could do your name.
It's the anagram.
You could do your name backwards. It's your name backwards, and it's like the opposite persona. It's like your.
Yeah, it's the what?
Dude, that would catch on.
The shade version of you.
That's a good idea, and I think you're very brave to do it.
Shade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joel, are you starting that?
But what
maybe
if
our subscriber, if our
Picture the videos. Oh God, terrible.
There'd be a lot of bleeping. Bleep,
Get your ass in bed.
This is going to be a thing. Our subs, if you guys want to see the
I'm all like, why are you out of
anti-Instagram,
bed again? Screaming at the kids. Sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
it's the what people post, the whole Instagram versus reality. It would be a website version of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the fail or like
this is what you saw.
This is what I
my kids in New York, we were having a blast.
Right.
It's like
what it was really like.
Yeah.
If you run out in front of that again, I'm gonna. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So Antigram coming to an app near you soon?
Yeah.
Instagram. Yeah.
Mine would be so boring.
It'd just be you sitting on your phone.
Yeah, my kids sitting on their stuff, the Switch and the computer.
Well, maybe that's
my wife watching TV in bed, and me sitting on the chair in the bedroom doing schoolwork or something.
It's like thrilling.
You wouldn't have very many followers.
Yeah.
No.
Be honest, Brett. You're not sitting there doing schoolwork. You're playing on Paint or.
Yeah, I do that too. Yeah.
Mine would be like literally this. Is what mine would be. If
Just
I
to be
have
authentic.
It would be like if I have to
Thanks
clean
a lot,
up
Chris.
another bodily fluid. That's what I scream a lot about at my house. I cannot pick up any more dog poop, clean up any more pee from somewhere, plunge any more toilets. I'd start to lose my mind.
Why did you
over that sort of
specify
stuff.
dog poop but not dog pee?
Well, there's dog pee.
But you didn't.
There's more dog poop than there's dog pee.
But you said
There's
dog-
human pee.
Okay, so there are
human pee.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
A lot of little ones running around your house.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
What made you think it was okay to pee on your sister?
But so I think a good practice might be when you're asked or complimented on these things. When you're asked how you're doing, you take a second to actually think how you're doing rather than just saying great.
Yeah. If everybody did that, what would that look like?
And not necessarily to process how are you actually doing and respond honestly, but also to think how should I respond to them?
Yeah, because every situation is going to be different.
Yeah, like if you were to ask me how I'm doing, I'll take a second to process how am I doing, and I can tell you. But if I'm at the cafe and someone's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I take a second to, "Oh crap! Well, I'm not going to tell them. Yeah, I had a shitty day today."
Right.
I say, "Yeah, I'm doing okay."
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's
No,
not
there's
really
been-
being inauthentic. That's
No,
just
it's- of
deciding
course it's
that,
not. But-
this person doesn't really want to know how I'm doing.
They don't, but
This is why
people
Europeans
do
think
want to
we're
know
weird.
that. People, but see, like, okay, so let's look at one issue, okay, in context of authenticity, body image, which we could do a whole thing on body image, right? But most people have a negative body image. They hate their body. Well, the reason that we hate our body is because all we see over and over and over again are beautiful bodies all the time. Because people don't post like, here's a picture of me and my fat belly sitting on the beach, typically, right?
Yeah.
People only post hot pictures of themselves or other people, and we see that in
So I'm
social
finding
and non-social.
That's why I just don't post.
I'm finding
Right, that's what
more,
I'm saying.
more and more in the artistic culture, like whether it's an artist doing some sort of music video, like the one we just watched, Billie Eilish did a song. It was like Bad something. I don't know. I can't remember what it is now.
Cadence, my daughter Cadence, is a huge Billie Eilish fan.
Anyway, I feel like everything she does is like anti what culture's putting out, which I really appreciate.
That's good.
But there was a camera, like a scene of her and she's on the staircase and it's like the camera just going back and there's like this giant dude's belly, like, and then they're like in a row, and they're like kind of like showcasing that, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think we're going to get there because I think people my age are like, oh yeah, you hear a lot about it too. Like being thick, is like a hot thing now. Mm-hmm. And there's, it is like, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
So I think our culture's changing. I mean,
well, and people are pushing back to that, I think a little bit, because there becomes this point where you just get, when I was mentioning the anxiety level among preteens, teens with social media and all that, there becomes this point where it's becoming dangerous, I think, to a certain extent for a lot of them. I have to be this, and I'm not one to be like, don't put your kids on social media or on devices. I don't think that's a good solution personally. People can do whatever they want. I have limits on my kids, but really because I'm perfectly balanced when it comes to parenting.
I have limits on my kids when I really feel like checking, which is not very often. Let's be honest, never.
But yeah, I think that there comes a point where people see kind of the dangers of that.
Yeah. People are sick of it. That's why I was saying there are a lot of signs that people are, craving authenticity because they want something genuine. I mean, think about all the things that have changed in our culture that feed into this. Social media is huge, but even just, all the digital stuff that we have that has replaced the quote real thing. Mm-hmm. Just so many, there's like layers to this, and so you see people, going on Etsy and paying 3 times as much for something that some guy made, handmade, because it wasn't punched out in a factory, and even though it's not as good and it's not going to last as long.
Right.
Because people are just craving things that are genuine, authentic.
Yeah, it's like this journal. Like I have a paper journal in front of me. Why do I have this? Because I did the digital thing for a long time.
Yeah, like this guy.
And like a computer.
Jeez.
Well, but I do both. But I had to like get back to this. Something about writing it down helped me remember it better. But I still use digital. Again, because I'm perfectly balanced. I'm trying to push that through. But anyway, yeah.
Okay, so be honest. Did you getting a paper journal, did it have anything to do with this is kind of a fad? People are going back to paper.
Yeah. And marketing. I mean, I was marketed to. And I thought, that'd be a really good idea. I should try that. Other people are doing it. Yeah. Well, that goes back to what we were saying before. To some extent, we are a product. No matter how authentic we are a product of our larger culture, and that influences us for sure. Yeah.
So in Buddhism, there's one of the principal doctrines is no self. But what's meant by that is you don't really have any substance because you're interdependent on everything and everyone else. So there is no distinct you. There is no lasting, distinct, substantive you. Because everything that you think of as you is interlinked with something else. And if any of that had changed, then the you that you think is you would not be you that you are right now. And so you are only you moment by moment by moment, and that you, this moment, is different from the one that's coming.
Yeah. So you're always in change.
Yeah.
Always in flux.
Yeah, that's the other big doctrine, impermanence.
I can see that with my 2-year-old. Yeah, she is us. She's herself, but she copies everything we say.
Of course.
Everything we do. Herself is completely defined by our family, Tara and I specifically, and her siblings. So yeah, and we are who we're around.
I'm thinking about your daughter and like how like when you were saying when there was a point where Tara would say a joke and she would do this like courtesy laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, does she really think that's funny, or is it just something that she's seeing and
just sees
repeating?
us do it, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that, or you think about people that are in solitary confinement, and how people go completely nuts when they're not around other people for a period of time. If people were completely themselves, had their own essence, why would that be? Mm-hmm. We're a social animal. Yeah, it's crazy.
Do you think a lot of this is going to be out there, do you think a lot of the strive to, or maybe the push to not be authentic came from the survival of the fittest? You know, it's like...
Definitely.
Like trying to... be better than the other person, or lie to get your way to the top. Like just kind of do what you can to survive and get to the top. Because now it's like we don't really need to have that.
But you do.
But you
Hold on, though. This is where I'm getting...
Well, okay. Jordan Peterson, like when he talks about like that whole... we're still in that kind of state. We feed off of those chemicals and stuff like that. But,
so it's definitely a part of our evolutionary development. That drives us.
Yeah, this is why people can be in a... We mentioned church, somebody being inauthentic. I don't know if the person you were talking about was in leadership or not, whatever. Let's use that as an example. But how someone could be in a position where they don't believe anything that they parrot and preach, but stay in that position. Why? Because their livelihood depends on it. It's the same kind of idea. Their survival literally depends on it.
I got a phone call from a pastor who had watched the talks that we did a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And he was literally in tears. He's like, I'm so happy and relieved that I found these videos that you guys did, these talks, because I don't believe so much of what my denomination says I have to believe. I literally signed off at my ordination that I believe these things, and I don't believe them. And I think they're just nonsense. And I don't know what to do because this is my livelihood. I've been in, I think he said he'd been in ministry for like 23 years. Mm-hmm. And so he's just like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. This is the thing. It doesn't it all boil back down though to the environment that is judging you, right? And so Jesus, again, I just think it's brilliant. Just don't do it. You're not in a position to really judge other people. You mean
judge others based upon what they say or what they...
You're just not in a position to judge them. You have no idea what's going on in their life. Mm-hmm.
And do you think if humanity really, really worked on that right there, not judging or, being really mindful of that, do you think that would change the way our authenticity came across?
No question. Yeah. I feel so much freer where I work now than I ever did. Mm-hmm. Even when I planted my own church, because of the kind of the community that gathered around that effort, just was more typical, I guess whatever you want to call it, evangelical, where they had learned themselves to put on a face. And be one person here and another person behind closed doors. That is way less true where I am now. And I just feel so much freer about being me.
So freeing.
Yes.
I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of trying to do that. And I don't feel like I've done that as much in the past few years, but it's just become more and more important to me. But there's a cost. There can be a cost to that. And I've seen that a little bit. And that can go back to affect your livelihood. And it can, even if you're not in a Christian situation, there are people that always judge, and that can affect business, work, whatever.
So then where do you draw the line? I know we're going to have to wrap things up, but where do you draw the line? For Jesus, as an example, the line was drawn nowhere. He was willing to give himself up to stand for the truths that he believed were important. And it's like, who's going to do that? Who's going to be authentic and do it radically? Like this Instagram idea.
I
mean, think about how freeing that would be for people. Yeah. My God, they would like watch it and go, oh, I'm not the only screw. Look at these people are, and then how many people would like jump onto something like that and say, I'm screwed up too,
Yeah.
let's talk,
Right.
And then how much healing would take place, and then like genuine healing, like where your life actually got better, and you started making better choices because you were free to talk about all the shitty choices that you've made, and not feel like you're going to be condemned for it.
Right.
Right?
I'm just thinking of all the filters are like opposites.
Opposite filter, like this shitty filter. This one.
It puts stains on your clothing and drool coming out. This is a great idea, I'm telling you.
Yeah. All right. I gotta go pick up my son. We gotta go. Because again, balance.
Thank you all.
Good talk. Yeah,
Bye.
thanks.
See ya.